Bhaktivedanta Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Radha Gokulananda, Radha Gokulananda, Radha Gokulananda, Shri Radhe. Jayo Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman, Jayo Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman. Jayo Gauranitai, 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 Jayo Gauranitai. Jayo Gauranitai, 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 Jayo Gauranitai. Jayo Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada. Jayo Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada. Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shishi Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So today we are reading from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verse 12. The chapter is entitled Karma Yoga. I'll recite each line once, please repeat after me, and then we'll do the whole thing. Ishtan Bhogan Hivo Deva,
Ishtan Bhogan Hivo Deva,
Dashyante Yagya Bhavita,
Dashyante Yagya Bhavita,
Terdatan Apradoyebo, Yo Bhunkte Shtena Eva Saha, Ishtan Bhogan Hivo Deva, Dashyante Yagya Bhavita, Dardatan Apradaibo, Yo Bhunkte Stena Eva Saha. Ishtan Bhogan Hivo Deva Dashyante Yagya Bhavitaha Terdatana Pradayebhyo Yo Bhunkte Shtena Eva Saha.
Ishtan Bhogan Hivo Deva Dashyante Yagya Bhavita, Terdatana Pradayebhyo Yo Bhunkte Shtena Eva Saha.
Please repeat. Hivo Deva Dasyante Yagya Bhavita Teiratana Pradayebhyo Yo bhukte stena eva sa.
Istan Bogan Hivo Deva.
Istan Bogan Hivo Deva. Dasyante Yagyabhavita. Dardadana Pradayebhyo. Yo bhukte stena eva sa. Ishtan Bogan Hivo Deva. Dasyante Yagyabhavita. Dardadana Pradayebhyo. Yo bhukte stena eva sa. Ishtan Bogan Hivo Deva. Dasyante Yagyabhavita. Dardatana Pradayebhyo. Yo bhukte stena eva sa. Ishtan Bogan Hivo Deva. Dasyante Yagyabhavita. Dardatana Pradayebhyo. Yo bhukte stena eva sa. Mother? Okay, that's fine, no worries. Sure. Okay, word for word, please repeat. Ishtan, desired. Bogan, necessities of life. He, certainly. Vaha, unto you. Deva, the demigods. Dashyante, will award. Yagyabhavitaha, being satisfied by the performance of sacrifices. Dai, by them. Datan, things given. Apradaya, without offering. Ebhya, to these demigods. Ya, he who. Bhukte, enjoys. Stena, thief. Eva, certainly. Sa, he. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. In charge of the various necessities of life, the demigods, being satisfied by the performance of yajna, sacrifice, will supply all necessities to you. But he who enjoys such gifts without offering them to the demigods in return is certainly a thief. Purport. The demigods who are authorized supplying agents on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. Therefore, they must be satisfied by the performance of prescribed yajnas. In the Vedas, there are different kinds of yajnas prescribed for different kinds of demigods, but all are ultimately offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For one who cannot understand what the Personality of Godhead is, sacrifice to the demigods is recommended. According to the different material qualities of the person concerned, different types of yajnas are recommended in the Vedas. Worship of different demigods is also on the same basis, namely according to different qualities. For example, the meat-eaters are recommended to worship the goddess Kali, the ghastly form of material nature, and before the goddess, the sacrifice of animals is recommended. But for those who are in the mode of goodness, the transcendental worship of Vishnu is recommended. But ultimately, all yajnas are meant for gradual promotion to the transcendental position. For ordinary men, at least 5 yajnas, known as Pancha Maha Yajna, are necessary. One should know, however, that all the necessities of life that the human society requires are supplied by the demigod agents of the Lord. no one can manufacture anything. Take, for example, all the eatables of human society. These eatables include grains, fruits, vegetables, milk, sugar, etc. For the person in the mode of goodness, and also eatables for the non-vegetarians like meats, none of which can be manufactured by men. Then again, take for example heat, light, water, air, etc., which are also necessities of life. None of them can be manufactured by the human society. Without the Supreme Lord there can be no profuse sunlight, moonlight, rainfall, breeze, etc., without which no one can live. Obviously, our life is dependent on the supplies from the Lord. Even for our manufacturing enterprises, we require so many raw materials like metal, sulfur, mercury, manganese, and so many essentials, all of which are supplied by the agents of the Lord, with the purpose that we should make proper use of them to keep ourselves fit and healthy for the purpose of self-realization, leading to ultimate goal of life, namely liberation from the material struggle for existence. This aim of life is attained by performance of yagyas. If we forget the purpose of human life and simply take supplies from the agents of the Lord for sense gratification and become more and more entangled in material existence, which is not the purpose of creation, certainly we become thieves, and therefore we are punished by the lords of material nature. A society of thieves can never be happy because they have no aim in life. The gross materialistic thieves have no ultimate goal of life. They are simply directed to sense gratification, nor do they have knowledge of how to perform yagya. Lord Chaitanya, however, inaugurated the easiest performance of yagya, namely the Sankirtan yagya, which can be performed by anyone in the world who accepts the principles of Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjala Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swaparantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Udapada Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sahajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadvadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshatanine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivedanta. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you. I humbly ask for the blessings of all my seniors here. all the exalted pujaris behind the curtains, and everyone online watching. I want to say thank you and express my gratitude for the seniors here who have given me this opportunity to share whatever small reflections I have on this verse. Thank you. I'll just read the translation again. In charge of the various necessities of life, the demigods, being satisfied by the performance of yajna, sacrifice, will supply all necessities to you. But he who enjoys such gifts without offering them to the demigods is certainly a thief. The demigods, being satisfied by the performance of yajna, will supply all necessities to you. Satisfied by the performance of yajna. When I read this, and also when I was speaking last night to one of my mentors, we were discussing satisfied by yajna. This is such a difficult thing for us, no? Finding satisfaction in the yajna which we perform. Finding satisfaction in our Krishna consciousness. How many can say that they're completely satisfied with how they are in their Krishna consciousness right now? I definitely can't. We were discussing last night how every day we wake up, do the same things, we read the same books, sing the same songs, see the same people. Not much is different every day. But how much are we being satisfied by performing these activities, these yajnas? How much are they feeding our soul? In KC, Krishna consciousness, the focus is on regulation. We're told to just focus on our Vedi sadhana bhakti, being consistent. And sometimes it seems a bit repetitive, even though that's not the case. But what was interesting is that this is our culture in Krishna consciousness. But in the material world, it's the complete opposite. It's no longer about repetition, about consistency. It's about change. It's about what's the biggest, newest thing. Where can I go traveling next year, or what's the newest piece of tech? What's the iPhone 13 going to be like? Is it going to have any bezels? Can I get it? Actually, the percentage of people who have more than 5 partners a year is increasing rapidly. People are becoming less and less satisfied, even in their own relationships, and they want change. So, in the material world, satisfaction, or so-called satisfaction, comes from this change. And this is the nature of the material world. There's no commitment. There's no longing for commitment to anything. But to find satisfaction in our fixed sadhana requires depth. To find satisfaction in reading the same book every day, in chanting the same mantra, in singing the same songs, requires depth. And this is the difference, actually. You can go as deep as you want in this new iPhone 13 which you have, but in a couple months it'll be just like any other phone that you've had. You'll get bored of it. But if you apply the same principle and we go deeper into our practice, one thing which I've been trying to do on the Council of Sutta Prabhu is learn the actual word-for-word meanings of the songs we sing every morning. And I think Lucas Prabhu does this also. And so I've been learning, or trying to learn Tulsi prayers, because they're the shortest and they're also the easiest right now. So I'm trying to learn the word-for-word for the Tulsi prayers. And I've noticed the last couple morning programs that when I'm conscious of what I'm singing, and I'm actually understanding the words which I'm singing, the kirtan becomes so much more heartwarming. It really does strike a chord in your heart when you're singing these bhajans. I don't know if anyone here has ever felt that before with any particular bhajan. But Shri Radha Govinda Premen Sadayena Basi. May I always reside in the love of Radha and Govinda. See, this is the difference. This is why material culture is so fickle and ever-changing, because the satisfaction achieved is so shallow. But spiritual culture, In spiritual culture, there is so much untapped nectar in the practices that we do every day. There's so much. And if just with these practices, which we sometimes unconsciously do every day, we can actually feed our soul with this nectar and become satisfied. The prayers we sing every day are filled to the brim by the acharyas with love of Krishna. Just by understanding the mood of the acharyas and by singing these bhajans, we can actually, it's said, develop pure love of God. That's how potent our daily practice is, the morning program that's been arranged for us. That's how much it can satisfy us. Srila Prabhupada has said that everyone does austerities for one thing or another. The pastime is, it goes like this. In New York, one day in New York City, a winter day, it was snowing, freezing. And they went out for a morning walk, as Srila Prabhupada always did. And one of the mothers actually pointed out that there were these two ladies, and they must have been going back home from a late night, and they were wearing less clothing and very, very cold, like visibly cold, like shaking, almost slipping on the ice. And Srila Prabhupada looked and said, everyone is performing austerities. Everyone is performing austerities for one thing or another. They are performing austerities for sense enjoyment. You are performing austerities for Krishna. And so, because the materialist does yagya for sense enjoyment, and the results of the yagya are temporary in nature, and they don't bring satisfaction. He remains unsatiated. Kama rupena konteya dushparenana lena cha. Kama rupena is lust, and dushparena means never satisfied. It's chapter 3, text 47, I believe. Lust for sense enjoyment will never be satisfied. It's our eternal enemy. But on the other hand, yagya for the pleasure of Krishna. Krishna is the Akila Rasimrit Murti, the abode of all rasas, the abode of all pleasure, taste, happiness. Yagya for the pleasure of Krishna feeds our soul. It satisfies us. And so a sincere devotee understands this and performs every yagya, from singing bhajans in the morning to his rounds to his service, with depth, or at least striving to have depth in his practice. So what is our yagya? Well, each yuga has dharma, and in such a yuga, the yuga dharma was meditation, smaranam. And how hard is that? It's so difficult, no? Smaranam. Chanchalam hi mana Krishna, pramati balavadridam, tasyaham nigraham manye, vayur iva shudushkaram. For the mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong, O Krishna. And to subdue it, it seems to me more difficult than controlling the wind. Every morning, in morning program, when it's time for class, I'm obviously here in Shri Shivada Gokulananda's temple room, and on my left I have Shri Krishna, Srimati Radharani, Sitaram, Lakshman Hanuman, Shri Gauranitai themselves. On my right I have Srila Prabhupada, a pure representative of the Lord. I try to sit in front so I stay more attentive. So in front of me, directly in front of me, my eye line, is a sincere Vaishnava speaking Krishna Katha, which is non-different from Krishna himself. And when I look around, we see paintings of Krishna everywhere, paintings of pastimes. And still, in this environment, during class, my mind gets distracted. So what to speak of having to sit for years on end, meditating, trying to control your mind on Krishna? It's impossible. In this yuga, it's impossible. So then the next yuga, the Yuga Dharma was fire sacrifice. So I've been doing some, while I'm here, most of my service has been doing some small stuff in the kitchen, here and there. And in the last few months, I've seen firsthand, actually, the amount of endeavor that goes in to cooking prasadam. The hours and hours of just chopping vegetables. Mataji is actually often there rolling chapatis, and the sheer amount of ingredients that are required. Actually, today was a particularly hectic day in the kitchen, as it was our Ian Prabhu's Vyasa Puja. So we tried to cook a nice feast for Prabhu. Haribol. And even in the past few months, like just the sheer amount of butternut squash that like the ashram has gone through is just like it's hard to fathom actually. But all of this, when you take it into context, is but a tiny fraction of what would be needed to do a fire sacrifice with the purity that they were doing in Treta Yuga. We need gallons and gallons of ghee, mountains of vegetables, and those are just the gross elements. Or to speak of the subtle elements, where you have pure brahmanas who had so much shakti. Just by mantra, they could invoke fire. Just by mantra, they could transfer one life from one body into another. That much purity they had in what they were saying, in their voice, in their sound. We just simply don't have that anymore, not yet at least. Next yuga was Dwapara Yuga, and Yuga Dharma here was deity worship. But the deity worship that's being referred to here is just of a different level altogether. For deity worship to be our Yuga Dharma, we need to fully realize that Krishna himself is non-different, completely non-different from his Archa Vigraha form. Ananta Gopal Prabhu said, you haven't realized anything if your behavior doesn't change. So it's easy to say, I've had this realization, or I've been having this realization, but actually, is your behavior changing according to the realization? Often I say it, and mine isn't. So we need to have this complete realization and behave in a way that Krishna is non-different from the deity that's there. That is the Supreme Lord right there. And so this means no shortcomings in our offering, no shortcoming in our mood of practice, which means that a certain level of opulence is required. Actually, an immense amount of opulence is required. In this yuga, in Dwapara Yuga, they were offering mountains of jewels, rubies, diamonds, and so many preps of prasadams, and even the brahmanas that were doing the pujari service had so much potency, so much purity. We're very fortunate here that we have such saintly pujaris here at the Bhaktivedanta Manor. But compared to what they had in Dwapara Yuga, like we as a community even, we're not qualified to have this as our primary form of worship, as our only way to attain Krishna. It's again too difficult. So then, here we are in Kali Yuga. Lord Chaitanya, the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, has come in the form of his devotee to show us how to be one, and to show us the Yuga Dharma, which is Nam Sankirtan. This is our yogya, as Srila Prabhupada says in the purport. Reading Shastra, worshipping the deities, book distribution, honoring prasadam, sadhu sangha, cleaning the temple, all of these activities are just there to facilitate our attachment to chanting the names of Krishna, the holy names of Krishna. In Kali Yuga, there's no other dharma than chanting the holy names of Krishna. In the translation, Srila Prabhupada writes, in charge of the various necessities of life, the demigods, being satisfied by the performance of yajna, sacrifice, will supply all necessities to you. Krishna is the maintainer of all living entities. Nachat mastani bhutani pashyame yoga maishwaryam bhuta vrinacha bhutasto mamatma bhuta bhavana. I apologize for the meter, I got a bit mixed up there. But the translation of this verse is, although I am the maintainer of all living entities, and although I am everywhere, still myself, is the very source of creation. The very source of creation and the maintainer of all living entities. So by pleasing Krishna, all the demigods will become satisfied. Everyone knows the analogy of to water a tree, you don't water each individual leaf, you water the root. So, by satisfying Krishna, by performing the yajna that pleases Krishna, we please all the demigods. But how do we do it? How do we perform this yajna? How do we develop attachment to chanting? Right, that's the question of the century. How can I have taste for the holy name? By doing it. By doing it. There is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way to develop attachment than to chant the holy names of Krishna. Rupa Goswami, the Abhidaya Acharya, says, Dasa pradhyana hridena pashe kripakara Mahaprabhu majinamarase. O Mahaprabhu, please be merciful to me so that the 10 offenses never touch my heart, and I can always remain absorbed in the rasa of the holy name. Rupa Goswami is the Rasacharya, empowered by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. The Rasacharya, he knows where the highest form of happiness is. He is the knower of the highest form of bliss. And yet, even him, Rupa Goswami is saying, please be merciful to me so that I can always remain absorbed in the rasa of the holy name. This should be our prayer. One time, the devotees here, during traveling Sankirtan, went on book distribution, and they took a minibus somewhere. And some of you know Nishinganam Prabhu. He was driving this minibus, and it was a really long drive, so the devotees fell asleep. Even the ones in the front seat, they fell asleep, knocked out. And Nishinganam Prabhu was driving, and they get to the destination, and he says, "Okay, we're here. Everyone off the bus. Let's go. Let's get started." And everyone jumps off. And a few minutes past, they realize that they're not where they're supposed to be. They're in like a completely remote, isolated town with no city center, no big complex where you can set up a stand. It's actually even a coastal town on the coast, and it's around 2-3 hours away from their actual destination. So the devotees then turn to Nishinganam Prabhu, and for those of you who know him, Nishinganam Prabhu is kind of like a cool cat. Like he's kind of cool. He's swift with his words. So he was saying, Prabhu maybe it's Krishna's arrangement. Maybe like we're supposed to be here. Maybe he made us get lost so we can come here. All this kind of stuff. The devotees were like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then while he was trying to fix what he had done, they were like, okay, let's see what we can do. We're here in this town. Let's at least try and make some use out of it. So they just stopped someone. And as these towns go, on like the fringes of England, you're not going to, sometimes, it's unlikely that you'll find like the most scholarly person. Yeah, this person was, he seemed a bit of an average Joe, kind of just like simple living, like nothing wrong with it, but just a bit simple living. Very unassuming. So they were like, okay, let's stop him. So they stopped him, and they started telling him, and then he was like, oh yeah, no, I'm on my way back from the beach. I've been chanting all morning. And they were just like, okay, fine, this guy's like, he's giving us all this jazz. He hasn't said it, he's just trying to get rid of us. He hasn't been doing this stuff. Because it's hard to believe, no? Like, what are the odds that this guy has been chanting all morning? So they were like, yeah, okay, but seriously. And then he was like, no, I'm being serious. And from his pocket, he pulled out japa beads, 108 beads, which he had made himself, completely by himself. He had gone to whatever they're called, like the professional that makes these beads, and he told him the instructions, 108 beads with a head bead as well, from big to small. And he's like, yeah, no, I've been reading, I read this book that one of you guys gave to me a while back called Chant and Be Happy by Srila Prabhupada. And so I've just been chanting 16 rounds every morning on the beach. And it's just, like, how amazing is that? How incredible is that? That's on one way, I mean, that's the power of book distribution, but also it shows how merciful Lord Chaitanya is. You don't need to be the most qualified person. You don't need to be Rupa Goswami, the Rasa Acharya. You can be the average Joe, and you can still have some taste for chanting. That's how easy it is, actually. Srila Prabhupada said in the purport that this is the easiest and quickest way, this Sankirtan Yajna. Chanting the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, yeah, this is what I've had prepped. Thank you so much for listening so attentively, Prabhu's mother. I apologize for any offenses and mistakes that I've made. And yeah, please, if anyone has any questions, comments, criticisms, I'm all ears.
I just wanted to say that we are looking to, I was hearing Bhaktivedanta Manor, and he was doing a review, structural review on the 8th canto, and he said that everyone is looking for happiness, you know, and the only way we can become happy is we understand the scriptures nicely and follow them. And in the 8th canto it says that the way we can become happy is that we see with equal vision all the living entities and we offer them respect, you know. And we ourselves, we remain humble. And all this we can do if we do study the Shastra through discussions. You know, the way Mother Chintamani and Krishna Dham Prabhu is doing. And we heard her class last week. Was really so nice.
So good.
And she quoted so many different quotes, you know, from different places. And this she's able to do because they do discussion. And then, you know, when you have insight, then you're supposed to give a shastric evidence, you know. So like this, so if we do these discussions, this will make our practices very joyful. And like you said, you study the prayer word by word, and that really makes a big difference when you actually know what you're saying, and we're not just repeating like parrots. So the same way the Shastra, you know, when we just read, we do get some benefit, but when we actually discuss, and that's when we really assimilate what we are reading, and when we assimilate, it makes such a difference to the consciousness. You feel very, very uplifted, and you begin to start feeling real joy, you know, that what we are looking for and we're working towards. So that's all I wanted to say. Because the verse said about satisfaction.
Yeah.
So everybody is looking for satisfaction.
Yeah.
And then in the purport, Srila Prabhupada also mentioned that those who are in different modes, they are recommended to worship the demigods. But those who are in mode of goodness, they worship Krishna or Lord Vishnu. You know? Because ultimately Krishna is the one who gives us satisfaction and happiness.
Exactly.
But in the material world, like you said, it's constant change. And you know, the change can't make the soul happy.
Exactly. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I just want to really encourage devotees to do discussion. It's really, very
Thank Thank you so much. Yeah. The importance of sadhu sangha and discussion, yeah, for sure. Thank you, Mother.
Yeah, like this is real sadhu sangha. To actually associate with Srila Prabhupada, who is the Uttama Adhikari. And he says that generally people can't understand the Shastric knowledge. But if they're fortunate enough and they discuss with a devotee of Krishna, then there's possibility of understanding.
Yeah.
Otherwise, and Maharaj also said that, Bhaktivedanta Manor, that when we are reading or studying, we will understand according to our samskar and the more we are reading. So when we are doing discussion and we have misunderstood something, then misunderstanding will stay because we are alone doing. But when we discuss with other devotees, then they'll say, well, I understand slightly differently. And in this way, you will realize that, oh, actually, I misunderstood. Like this. And it's very, very joyful when we do this type of discussion. It was very thorough and threadbare.
Yeah, the power of discussion.
It's very, I really, really like it.
Yeah.
Especially when I do it with her. She's so good at it. It's made such a difference.
Yeah, me too. I can really feel it actually, even in our Bhakti Shastri sessions, when we speak about the points, and actually sometimes even with some of the devotees after the morning class over breakfast, we speak about what we heard, and this it solidifies what we heard, because there's Shravanam as well, and the power of sound is so powerful. Like, we remember things so much better when we discuss them, and we also hear them as well, right? Just by reading. Sometimes not everyone reads out loud, so it's easy to be distracted.
There's different devotees reflect back what you understood, but in their own words. So it's really nice. You really have to listen.
Exactly.
Because if you don't listen, you can't reflect back. Because you don't know what they say.
Yeah.
So this like forces you to be attentive, you know. And then when you're in class, you'll be listening with much more attention, because you want to learn something. What is Krishna revealing to me? So it really improves your hearing as well, and it helps us to develop attraction to Krishna. So it's really very nice, and maybe when this whole isolation, lockdown is finished, then all can take advantage and learn the technique with Krishna Thakur. Because they have a whole web page where you can go on. It's called Improving Sadhu Sangha. And it has all the 16 principles which is the discussion is based on. And it's very, very thorough and really you get the taste, for the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yeah.
Because you go much more deeper into it, not just reading through or overview, like this. So maybe we don't want to become like scholars of Shastra or anything, but we want to actually understand, what we are doing, and try to know Krishna a little bit, And once we know him and what he likes and his likes and what he's trying to tell us, when he sees that we really trying to understand and making effort, that is very, very pleasing to him. And that's when we get the mercy. So just wanted to share.
Thank you so much, Mother. Thank you.
Yeah, because you're all such nice devotees, and I would really like to see you grow nicely, not just theoretical knowledge, but having actual realization of the knowledge, realizing, experiencing. Yeah, today I was hearing Maharaj is doing a review on Srimad Bhagavatam, And he's doing the first canto, and in that he said we need to really hear him. Okay? But we will hear according to the mode we are in, and to really transcend, we need to hear somebody who's actually experiencing it. And he said that Srimad Bhagavatam, every time is Krishna who is actually speaking, not the speaker. The speaker is just representative. So when Sukadeva Goswami was speaking, it was actually Krishna speaking, through him. And Sukadeva Goswami wasn't just narrating the pastimes of the Lord. He was actually experiencing. And he said, when you hear from somebody like this, then it has very powerful effect, on the hearer, and it purifies you. Really very important who we hear from.
Thank you.
The next person is Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah.
So Srila Prabhupada always said, it's not, I haven't written this book, Krishna. Krishna was telling me what to write. So actually, if we study his prophets, we will know Srila Prabhupada better. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mother. Krishna Baba.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for your nice class.
Hare Prabhu.
It says that meat eaters are recommended to worship the goddess Kali and perform animal sacrifice. I'm just wondering, why are they recommended to do animal sacrifice? Because wouldn't that just give them more bad karma and just take them more away from Krishna?
Thank you, Prabhu. Yes, so just so I can understand your question, Prabhupada in the purport says that those who eat meat, attached to eating meat, should worship the goddess Kali and perform animal sacrifices. So, from my understanding, different people are conditioned in different ways and thus have different attachments. And these attachments block their levels of perception, block their levels of understanding. They're unable to understand, even other demigods, let alone Krishna. And so, what Prabhupada is saying, and what the Shastras say, is that for someone who is in this mode and who is attached to eating meat, they may not be able to fully understand or give up this attachment by worshipping Vishnu, by worshipping other demigods. But simply by worshipping the goddess of Kali, their consciousness becomes purified. And they have the gradual process of purifying their consciousness and thus elevating even their habits. Does that answer your question? Thank you.
Just on that point also, it is said, right, that if you offer to Goddess Kali, you say this mantra of, I kill this